Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we talk about TV shows here. The year is 2021, and the name of the show is Babylon 5. So this is going to be Season 3, Episode 3. It's called A Day in the Strife. Full spoilers for the episode, as always, and we are going to talk about a weird probe in the subplot. And we got a main plot with Jakar and a little Narn, including a returning Narn from a previous episode, which I did not actually realize until they mentioned it, which, to be fair, he didn't speak yet. I think the voice is what would have made me go, I recognize him, because it had been a little while since that Season 2 episode. But that's what we're going to talk about this episode. So some interesting things to get into, and Londo being a bit of a dick as well, since we're on the subject of characters. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
This is a great intro. This is the best intro anyone's ever heard, and no one will deny such a thing.
What'd you think of the episode?
I think it's a pretty good episode. It's not like an all-timer by any means, but it's the Jakar stuff in particular and the Narn stuff I thought was really fascinating. I think the Londo and Vir stuff is advancing. It's heartbreaking, but it's advancing for their character arcs, especially Vir, and the idea that Londo can't bear that his conscience, which is what Vir effectively is hanging around, and that's why he wants rid of him. I think that stuff's really interesting. The plot with the probe is fine. I don't find it particularly. Leave it. Yeah. And then the other plot, there's actually 4 plots in this episode. The Garibaldi and Franklin plot. I do think the way it's introduced feels a little abrupt, but I do actually really like the idea that Garibaldi can recognize this because he is an alcoholic. I kind of love that. Once to get into it, once we got to the actual dinner scene with the spaghetti, once we got to that, I thought, oh, this is actually starting to get kind of interesting, because I wasn't into the first scene with them. We'll start with that since I've actually mentioned some details.
Yeah, I really like this episode, actually. I think it's really good, with the exception of the main plot of the probe. It's like the only one where it's like, I don't really care about this probe. Like, I know they're going to take care of it, and like the way they take care of it, I think is kind of okay. But,
is that the main plot? I mean, I guess it kind of is, in the sense that the entire station might get destroyed by it.
Yeah,
but
it's like the big thing that's going on.
It doesn't feel like the main plot. It feels like the third plot at best.
It really does. Yeah, it doesn't feel like this is the main threat. It is kind of introduced a bit late, I guess. I'm not sure. All the other plots are introduced first.
Yeah, there is some good comedy though with Ivanova, I thought, throughout this plot.
And when what's his face? He got named in this one, but I remember.
Oh, okay, his name. Boy. Yeah. Not only does the bridge boy,
bridge boy, I like it.
David Corwin, Tech David Corwin, is that him?
I'm not looking at IMDb. I'm not sure.
He's a lot older in this photo, so I'm not 100%.
I think so. I think that's him, because I've seen
he's like a 50. Yeah, that's him. I'm pretty sure it's him. But he's like 50 years old in this photo, so it's hard to like, he's like a young 22-year-old.
But he's been around since Season 1.
Oh, he has been, because he had that great funny moment in the documentary episode where Nirvana was like standing over his shoulder, because we talked about that. And what stuck out to me about his presence in this is that not only does he have a couple of funny moments when people ask him questions in this, he actually at one point in the episode has a zinger that doesn't have a prompt. He just says a joke because Ivanova says something to Sheridan, and then he just kind of in the background cracks a little one-liner about it. And I was like, he's getting sassy. He's getting a bit brave with this. Which I thought was it was kind of funny, because when Sheridan walks off at the end, and Ivanova has a line about, if I get to the end of this my time on this station without going being mad, it'll be nothing but short of a miracle. And he just says, and David in the background just goes, well, there goes any luck of a divine force or something like that. He basically says, oh, well, that's no hope of a god then, effectively. The exact wording I can't remember, but it popped me, because I was like, he didn't get asked a question, because even though he has some lines in this episode, it's always because someone asks him something, and maybe there's a little bit of humor to it because of how he says it, or because he's scared to say something in front of Ivanova, because of Ivanova's the tough drill sergeant kind of character. But that stuck out to me. So
yeah,
props to him. He's starting to come into his own.
Yeah, me too. That's why I noticed him in this.
So That was fun. But otherwise, yeah, the probe wants to, like, it's got like 600 questions to prove the intelligence of whoever it runs into, and they think it'll self-destruct if they don't give it all the right answers. But then right at the last minute, Sheridan sort of calls its bluff and thinks, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Why would it destroy us if we get it right? Presumably it might actually destroy us because it wants to, like, get rid of the opposition if there's something out here that can sort of go up against whoever sent this probe. And maybe whoever
if
sent
we give him all of our information, then that's enough for it to destroy us.
Yeah. Maybe whoever sent this probe will show up later. Maybe it's going to be relevant in the future, because this show does love to bring things back up. But in this episode, it feels quite random.
A little bit, yeah.
So,
I mean, they did say that, you know, it's not technology that we recognize. We don't know what its origin is. It looks a little Vorlon to me, but like, why would the Vorlons do that? And also, why wouldn't they just ask Kosh about it? Maybe he's not on the ship or on the station, but like, it never comes up. Like, why not ask the ancient race that's on board if they've come across this species?
Well, not
before?
even just the ancient race. They don't ask any of the races.
That's true.
they don't ask the Jakar, they don't ask Delenn, who's all, because the Minbari are all also, you know, older than the humans.
Yeah, that's true.
So they don't ask any of the races, like, do you know what this thing is? They just kind of go about trying to solve the riddles.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So it feels a little undercooked, I guess, because see if they actually went around everyone and like people like maybe theorized about where it came from or what this means, maybe it could have turned into an interesting plot. But as it is, it's basically just a ticking time bomb. So
it's just something for our main characters to do while we get the interesting stuff from the I don't want to say the lesser, not main character. They're all main characters, but you know, the ones that we always get have their thing. We can focus on the Narn plot, what's going on with Vir, and what's going on with Franklin.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's something for Sheridan and Ivanova to do.
Yes.
Just those two. So,
yeah,
which is fine.
And Bridge Boy.
And Bridge Boy.
It's my favorite name now.
We're just gonna go on Bridge Boy. Yes. So Bridge Boy is the MVP
it sounds like
of that
Cool Boy.
That storyline. So
like he should have short shorts on.
Yes.
Bridge Boy. Another round of Cosmos.
Ivanova would not say like that though. I'm imagining Ivanova going, Bridge Boy, over here now. Like, just very sternly.
Yeah, very like demoralizing.
Yes. And he's like, yes, Ivanova. Yes, Commander. So yeah, that plot's kind of whatever. And maybe it'll become more interesting, you know, if it becomes important later. But as of right now, it's just kind of there. To go over to the Franklin stuff, I said we'd start with that. And this is not starting, but it's close enough.
It's a very organic show. We don't plan it out.
Yes. So basically, they're at the restaurant, the fancy restaurant on Babylon 5. It's just Ivanova shows up for briefly to sort of talk about stuff. Which actually is maybe the one other thing we should mention with Ivanova and Sheridan before we move on is there's a bookend to the episode where they're dealing with these, like, they're telling all of the dock workers, or not even the dock workers, but it's like the owners of the goods that are coming in and out, the taxation and import of goods and the process, customs, I guess is the word I'm looking for, customs of the ship or the station is slowing down for X, Y, and Z reasons, and it's going to take 10-15% longer, and everyone's mad about it, which leads to a hilarious scene. I tweeted out a photo of this scene as I was watching it because there's a phenomenal mustache on this man who tries to like goad Sheridan into a fight. Or actually, I should say, he tries to call him a coward, and the last thing he actually wants is a fight, because when Sheridan says, oh, you think I'm big guy because I've got a gun and you don't? Well, here's my gun. Let's go then. I'll give you a head start. You can go reach for the gun. You know, he backs down immediately.
Yeah. It's an okay scene. Like, I see what they're trying to do with it, where it's very much like, okay, Sheridan is not so much like a captain as he is like the sheriff of this town. Like, he comes off very like where Sinclair you compare to like Superman, Sheridan's like Wyatt Earp almost. Like, he's just trying to, I don't know.
I mean, I think the characters themselves talk about it later in the episode. Not Sheridan, obviously, but the others, Garibaldi and Ivanova, and in the scene in the restaurant. Do you notice
like he seems to be a bit edgier or something?
Yeah,
like,
he's different, you know. But you know, because she even says like when he first came here, he was trying to fit in, but now he's trying to sort of like shape the station, and it's kind of justified under the pretense that because of the times they're in, because of the war and the coming battle with the shadows, that he's kind of what they need. They need someone who is going to like take this stand. So this opening scene, I think, is the point of this is like he's not going to be diplomatic the same way that Sinclair was. He's going to like show a show of strength, and he's going to get this guy to back down. And he's right in doing so. And he has an insurance policy because he takes out the little energy thing for the gun.
Takes the batteries out.
Yeah. There's a nice payoff.
I thought there was a good. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's a nice payoff to this because we have a joke scene later where it cuts back to them in this meeting again, and he's just sitting there miserable as they're all yelling at him.
Yeah.
And there's a nice line in the middle where he says, like, on the upside, if this thing does blow up, I won't have to go to this meeting. Because he schedules it. He's like, when does this deadline come up for this thing blowing up? 6 hours. Schedule the meeting for 7 hours because at least if it blows up, I won't have to go. Genius.
One last thing.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was thinking in the beginning of this episode that it was going to be some sort of Second Amendment episode because it was very much like you have the guns and you're trying to take away our right to fight or something like that. And I thought, oh no, is that what this is going to be? Like, oh, they'll probably do something good with it. Yeah. But it wasn't that at all, turns out.
No, if anything, this was more like some asshole on Twitter in 2021 who is like, oh,
talks big.
These people are cowards because I'd do this. And then Sheridan's like, oh, would you now? And comes down and like, finds him in real life and is like, well then, go for it. Take a shot. And it's like, second thoughts, my mustache is all show. I'm not actually that tough. So... it's got a purpose. It's not the best scene in the world, but I got a kick out of it a little bit, and it does have a purpose. There's an intent behind it, which I can always appreciate. So
sure.
But like I say, we're in the restaurant, but the main part of this, of course, is that Franklin is complaining that he's so tired. He is
burnt out.
He's overworking. There's a cute woman who keeps looking at him, and Garibaldi's like, hey, there she is again. She's looking at you. Why don't you go and ask her to dance? And he's like, dude, I just want to sleep. I ain't got energy for dancing, okay? I ain't got energy for women. And he goes to the bathroom, and him and Garibaldi and Ivanova have the little talk about Sheridan. And when he comes back out, he's like, hey, I'm not back on duty for 3 more hours. I'm going to go dance with that pretty woman. And he's like, and immediately I was like, did he just take something?
He just took some cocaine in the bathroom.
That's what it feels like.
To powder his nose.
And it feels so like I wasn't super fond of this particular moment because it felt just so like sudden and in my face. And that's not to say that there's not been hints in the past that he's taken stims because they've brought it up before.
I think it's been brought up before.
Yeah, credit where credit is due. They have brought it up, but it fell a bit in my face in this scene. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, when we get to the scene where Garibaldi's like invited them over for dinner and he's made them some Italian food and they're going to, I mean, is Garibaldi an Italian name? I guess it kind of sounds like one. I never thought about it.
Well, we know that he has some sort of Italian background because remember he made that like disgusting fondue butter thing.
That's
that
right.
he shared with Franklin before.
That's right. Yeah. This is not. Yeah, that's a good point. They established that he has them over for dinner sometimes. That's already happened.
Yeah.
This is the romance that keeps giving.
Really heavy, disgusting food. Yeah.
This didn't look too bad though. This was just.
There was some like green fettuccine or something.
It was pasta and sauce with some bread. It was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Still
pretty heavy.
Sure.
But I'm not anti-pasta though. I love pasta.
No. And props to Franklin for cutting up his pasta a little bit. I know there's some some purists out there who would insist upon eating it properly with spilling it up. I'm like, no, just cut it and shove it into your mouth. It's neater. It's less messy.
No, take your time with food.
It doesn't matter.
Such a rush.
It doesn't matter how you eat it. Okay.
It does.
It doesn't matter. It's just... Anyway.
There's a ritual. I'm on the Minbari side here.
That's too much ritual, all right? Let me eat my damn food. Anyway, so he broaches this topic, and this is where I got into it because I'm like, you know what? This makes sense. Garibaldi even says why he's drinking water. He sort of alludes to his alcoholism again, and I was like, oh, you know what? I like this more now. The idea that Garibaldi's the one who recognizes this, the one who recognizes it as an addiction, and Franklin, hits us with some kind of like a mix of defense, but also a little bit of lore for us in the sense that he says, stims are completely legal, which so is alcohol for the record, and it's fine in moderation, and sometimes he's working long shifts, he has to take them. But I think Garibaldi's right to be concerned because the difference in demeanor, because he should be going home and catching, because he says he's got 3 hours till his next shift. He should go home and get 3 hours of sleep. If he's feeling this tired, that's what he should be doing. And they have a bit of a tiff about it. And Franklin goes too far at one point and kind of, snaps back at Garibaldi a little bit and says he never met a bottle he didn't like. And it gets a little bit cold, but then they sort of make up a little, and it's kind of this awkward thing.
Forget it. Let's be friends and just enjoy dinner together. And Franklin does the whole thing. Well, you know what? Because you're concerned, I'll let you know that there is nothing to be concerned about, and I'll just cut back.
And there's not like a neat resolution to this episode, because there's obviously a conclusion in the sense that there's an ending to it, but it's not a conclusion to this plot line, because it's clearly going to be coming back again at some point. Yeah,
which I am all for, because like I've said, especially in season 1, where Franklin was not really given very much to do, and some of the stuff he was given was, questionable at best. But
my quarters was neater than the med bay.
Oh, red flag. But I do like that, I do care about this character, and I think he had a couple of great episodes, that Confessions and Lamentation especially. But I think that having something else for us to latch onto, especially the way they handle it, in the later half of this episode, I think is, no, Gus, you can't make noise right now, is really, really good. And it gives me something for him, because so far he's just been the doctor. Like, he's had a couple of good episodes, but no like real storyline that we can follow.
He's had good episodes in the sense that, like, because even in season 1, as much as he had some bad stuff in season 1, he had some good stuff as well. The one where the kid was sick and the parents wouldn't let him operate. That was a good episode, in that it brought up this moral debate and ethical debate, and him arguing his beliefs on it. Like, whether you think he's right or wrong in the situation, you get a lot of good sense of the character and how much he believes he's right, and how much he's willing to fight for his right to believe that this kid should be saved. And so, but you're right. This is a more personal thing that's more about him than.
And because I watched, I like do the quality assurance check for these before they go out on YouTube. YouTube is like always recommending Babylon 5 stuff for me to watch now, but. I did click on one thing, and it was a TED Talk with Claudia Christensen, where she talked about her battles with alcoholism. And we know from the comments on the videos that we've gotten in the past that, that Jerry Doyle also had problems with addiction, which I fully assume is why it's in this show also, is because it's one of his demons that he battled. And just, it makes it like kind of, I don't know, like this is a window into the behind the scenes almost of Babylon 5.
I wonder,
the storyline.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's something that, I mean, I don't necessarily know if the introduction of it at all as a theme was necessarily based on the fact that an actor or two had issues. I mean, because I don't know when Claudia Christensen's issues started, or if that was something that happened after the show. Was it during the show? Was it already before the show? I don't know. But I don't know if it was inspired by that, but it does kind of feel like maybe it was lent into more as time went on, and the idea of introducing another plot line with Franklin, again, I don't know if that actor, I mean, there's no reason to assume that he did, but the idea of exploring
he did die young, though, I think.
But the idea of exploring it with a different character, and not the same type of addiction, but it doesn't really matter ultimately, an addiction's
it's
addiction.
An allegory, yeah. And plus, they're not really talking about like caffeine here, which is also a legal substance that people abuse in order to, be able to be more concentrated on what they're doing to be able to keep going with their activities.
Though, caffeine is not in the same level as this, though, because no one would ever have this conversation with someone about caffeine.
No, of course not. This is like this is more like cocaine, but like legal. I don't know what stim packs are exactly, but I assume they are some mixture of caffeine and maybe space stuff to give you the boost you need.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. They don't have to explain it too much. It's fine. We just, we have stims. It's fine.
But it's like, it's a legal substance, so it's very much an allegory for alcohol.
Yeah. Which is why this, Garibaldi recognizing it and relating to it works really well. And so in this episode, he is tempted when he's under stress later in the episode because he's trying to save people, and he's also been like asked about these questions, and he's sending off stuff off the earth to like get stuff answered. And then it's right towards the end of the episode when it's right under the wire and like the questions are coming in, like he gets just that extra bit of stress, and he finally opens his drawer again and takes the stim. And
it's not just stress. He's going through withdrawal.
Yeah, but it's the way he reacts that stuck out to me, because he kind of, and this ties into the withdrawal, is that there's this sort of sense of relief when he takes it, which is I think the bigger tell to me, because it's one thing, because in the situation he's talking about earlier, where he's like, it's not irregular for someone working long shifts to need to take one of these things to just sort of keep alert, given what he's doing. But
he does say that they're prescribed. So
well,
it is like abusing medication.
But to finish my point, though, this is a stressful situation where they're literally under a ticking time bomb, where he presumably has been working an absurd long time. He's feeling stress from multiple angles. This might be the exactly sort of situation that most people in this world would agree is probably the time that someone might understandably pop a stim, because it's, the situation might call for it. But the difference here is that he's already tried to resist it because he knows he shouldn't. Deep down, he knows he shouldn't. And then he gives into it. And then the reaction he has when he takes it is that of someone who was having withdrawal and has finally got their fix and is finally, I can relax again.
I mean, you're getting the withdrawal stuff pretty early on also, because he was like not just irritable. Like, he's always had kind of a poor bedside manner, but like he's yelling at his, coworkers. He's yelling at people over the Babcom. Of like swearing them out and threatening to get them, whatever on their record, and threatening their jobs. This is very much somebody who is not just in a stressful situation. It's made so much worse because he doesn't have his normal vice that he uses to get through.
I feel like
his body is asking for it.
I feel like I get just as grouchy as if I'm just tired, to be honest.
Well, I think we've seen Franklin. He works a lot of hours, and we know he has a poor bedside manner, presumably because he's always stressed.
Yeah, this is not to discount actual signs of withdrawal in other people, but I feel like if I'm just sleep deprived, I can be this snappy with people.
Well,
maybe that's just a flaw of mine.
I know you're saying that caffeine's not on the same level, but like I've gone through... I don't drink caffeine anymore, and going through that withdrawal is nasty.
No, I wasn't saying that caffeine as a substance and addiction isn't in the same level. I'm saying that you would never have a friend sit down and give you an intervention because they think you drink too much caffeine.
Well, no, but it could be also because everybody drinks caffeine, so
sure, but that was my point. No, I'm not talking about the substance itself. I'm not talking about the addiction effects itself. I'm talking about how socially it is accepted and not seen as something that you can be addicted to, even though you very much can be addicted to it.
Oh yeah, most of the world is.
Yeah.
Definitely the Western world.
But even if you are addicted to it, though, people just kind of accept it. Oh, you're addicted to caffeine, no big deal. Maybe if you want to get over that, then you should get over it. But if not, no worries.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks of miserable headaches, and then you're done. But you are very irritable, and you are like, lights are too bright and stuff. It's like being hungover.
Which is something I've never felt, so I can't relate. But
your bones ache. It's like if you don't think you're addicted to caffeine, like try going off of it like cold turkey. It sucks. Like I thought I had Lyme's disease at one point. Like, there's no way caffeine is doing this to me. Maybe I should go get checked by a doctor.
Yeah. Well, I don't get that much caffeine anyway because I don't like hot drinks, so I don't drink tea. I don't drink coffee.
You drink energy drinks.
Yeah, but not that many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. People who are addicted to caffeine have like 3 cups of coffee a day, or even more than that even.
Oh yeah.
Me having one energy drink at most a day, I don't think is constituted as addicted to caffeine.
You don't know until you get rid of it.
Okay. Do you want to really bet?
You're my friend. I'm concerned.
Right? Do you really want to bet that if I go a few days without caffeine, I'm going to start getting...
I'm not saying a few days. I'm saying like the full, at least 2 weeks.
So you think I would get aches and pains because I've not had caffeine?
If you go
for
no
2
energy
weeks.
drinks, no sodas.
I don't drink sodas. I haven't.
No chocolate.
I don't drink that much chocolate. How much caffeine's in chocolate anyway?
There's caffeine in chocolate.
Yeah, but not much.
Yeah, it's not much. But like if you're going through a withdrawal, then like if you're gonna go cold turkey.
I do not believe that
a lot of like medications have caffeine in it.
I don't take any medication. Stop trying to justify your point. All I'm saying is that I do not believe that I would get withdrawal symptoms if I didn't have caffeine for an extended period of time.
Okay, well, whatever. Let's move on, because this is not anything to do with the episode anymore. I'm not really like afraid for people who are caffeine addicted.
Yes, but you love to make me feel guilty for anything I consume. So this is just more of that, and you try to convince me I've got a problem when I very clearly do not.
I don't know. You sound a little bit like Franklin.
Yes, but you do not sound like Garibaldi, which is why I know it's bullshit. You just try to give me a complex because you think they'll give you a kick. It'll be funny. Mm-hmm. You don't get as much caffeine anymore, so you have to get your kick somewhere else.
Yeah, this is it. I feel stimulated.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting plotline for Franklin.
Yeah, especially. I mean, I don't know if you're going to bring it up, but he does take it, and then he lies to Garibaldi about it.
Yeah,
so he's hiding it.
Yeah, I mentioned he took it, but yeah, you're right. That's the final beat of it. Is that he says to him like, "Hey, I was stressed all day, all this crisis, and I didn't take one." And we're
nothing to worry about.
We know you did. We saw it. Yeah. You have been. What do people say on YouTube when someone's been got, like when they've been proven guilty of something?
I don't know. I always say busted, but that's not it.
Yeah, busted, or maybe I gotcha. It's a gotcha moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, but anyway, just picture Franklin's face with the big red text saying "fraud" in front of him. Fraud.
And I mean, he is a doctor, so he knows he has a problem.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now that it's registered.
So we'll move on then. We'll move on to some other plots. Londo, who does interact with one of the Narn who show up, the official sort of representative from Narn, who's
appointed by Centauri,
who's called Nafar, and he's there to replace Jakar and send Jakar home. That's his thing. We'll get into that plot in a minute though. But the main thing I want to bring up here is that he goes to sort of see Londo before going to see Jakar because he needs to get approval from the Centauri official, on site to go and speak to Jakar. And Londo, just makes him, he's like, hey, are the executions going well back at home? And he's like, yes. He's forcing him to prove that he's loyal, repeatedly, by making him talk about all the things they're doing to other Centauri, or to other Narn. And it's just this brutal thing, and the whole time Vir's watching and disgust, and Vir's not happy about this, and Vir immediately brings it up as soon as he leaves. He's like, was that necessary? And he's like, yes, we have to make sure they'll never try and fight back. We have to break them, it's about pride, blah blah. And
he says we don't want to go through this again in another 100 years, which is a pretty disgusting thing to say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Vir is his conscience, and he tries to tell him that this is bullshit, and that this is all about pride. That it's not enough that we already won. It's not enough that we already did what we did. We have to keep doing this. And he's like, and that's just prompts Londo to go and see Delenn, and he tries to hey, it's a shame that we don't talk anymore. It's a shame that we were not as close as we once were. And Delenn's not budging. She's not like, we're not going to pretend that everything's okay. And so Londo's like, well, very well, but you did say that I could call upon a favor because of past events, and I am calling that favor in. There's not been a Centauri representative or ambassador or whatever the title was on Mimbar for some time, and I propose that Vir should go and spend time there. And he's he would think it's rude to spy on your government, so you don't have to worry about him spying for us. And he's he's lovely, everyone will love him.
Everybody loves Vir.
What I kind of like about this scene though is that he gives his fake reason about why this is good for his career, and this is him moving up in the world. He's like, okay, that's nice, but what's the real reason? And he's like,
so what's the truth now?
Yeah, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, okay, I won't bullshit you. He's around.
Vir's too nice.
He's too nice. And I need rid of him. I need to have him gone.
Yeah, I mean, he says things like, when I look at him, I see myself before, and he kind of breaks off. It doesn't finish the sentence, but we know it's before his cynicism came in.
What's so beautiful about this is that we know he's felt guilty at points, and he sort of had to head it down. So the idea that so when he says he sees himself before his current state, this idea that he's trying to like get rid of everything that can possibly remind him of his guilt. He's trying to remove anything that makes him feel guilty, and Vir makes him feel guilty. So it's just a beautiful little bit of the character arc overall. And the episode does end with Vir leaving. Vir gets, he walks out of the terminal. It looks like he's going. Now he's still in the main credits, so I'm assuming he'll be back before too long. But
yeah, I assume so too. But it is heartbreaking, especially because we know that Londo's putting on an act.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's trying to convince Vir, like, he's basically trying to shoo him away like a golden retriever. Like, no, you're not wanted here. Just go. Throws a shoe at him. And even though Vir keeps looking back, like, can I come back now? Just go. It's sad. It's heartbreaking.
So I guess it's lucky then, in a sense, that there's some heartwarming stuff in the other plot with Shakar. Not that it's all fun and games, but it does get heartwarming eventually. And that is... So that's character in the Far, who's there to take over, not as ambassador, because they're not supposed to have their own ambassador anymore, right? They're under control of Centauri.
They always call him, like, was it civilian Shakar?
No, Citizen Shakar. Because actually...
Citizen Shakar.
Despite the fact that it's kind of like a demotion, obviously, and they're just pointing out that he's just a citizen, it actually sounds kind of cool. Citizen Shakar.
It's a good word. That's why I used it in the Ace intro.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just a good word, There's a reason why Citizen Kane, like, caught on,
That's the reason.
It's two cool words put together. Citizen
Good job,
Kane.
Orson Welles.
Yeah.
You got the title right.
Basically he goes to see Shakar, and his whole thing, and he explains this to a little bit to Sheridan as well, who turns down, because Sheridan says, no, I gave him asylum, and if he doesn't want to leave, I'm not going to make him. So if it's his choice, if he doesn't want to go with you, then I will defend his right to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And he explains to Shakar and reiterates the idea that now is not the time for this fight. Like, all you're doing is making everyone's life more difficult. They're being really harsh with all the Narn that are alive. We should make peace with them for a time, and then maybe strike later when they're more comfortable, maybe their guard is down, kind of idea. He doesn't use those exact words, but that's the kind of the sentiment he's getting at, that right now they have to make peace. And Jakar's like, no, we can't, we have to. And phenomenal performance again here. And there's a lot of good acting in this. I think Londo and Vir were really good in this episode as well, in their roles. But Jakar here, the way he gets angry, when Nafar says you're making things worse on Narn, and he stands up and says, what, I'm making things worse, I didn't invade Narn, I didn't demolish the cities, because that's the thing, is that as much as it feels like this Nafar is a bit of a patsy, it feels like he maybe is a little bit too in line with Centauri. There is that one great moment when Londo's grilling him and he's asking all the questions, and he's like, oh, is everything all fine, are the cities back on in our homeworld, are they good? And he has one moment where he kind of just puts in a little dig where he says, the cities that are left standing are going just fine.
The streets, yeah.
The streets that are left standing,
because
yes.
he's asking him, like, so, before I couldn't walk around on the streets, but, like, now, how are things now? Are they going to welcome me? Or or is it dangerous?
But it's that little bit where he adds on that detail, the streets that are still standing are perfectly safe. Like, so... And
which is why I think that's why Londo keeps bringing up other things like internment camps and
the pride,
he keeps adding on more things that we hear about what's going on the planet, what the subjugation that's happening. What I mean
with the pride, though, because when he's talking to Vir after, he says he still has pride, I can see it in his eyes. He tries to hide it, but I can see it in his eyes. And it was that little line that was kind of tell that he does have some pride. He does ultimately want to kind of beat Centauri back, but obviously he's not militant about it. He's not gunning for this resistance right now like Jakar is, and all these things. But so they have this scene, and basically he says, look, I'm going to tell all the other Narn on this station that their families are going to be arrested and possibly tortured if you don't go home. And this is, keep in mind, if he goes home, because he's the last remaining Narn who was part of the previous government, he will be killed. He will be executed. Even if they're claiming that he won't right now, he will be killed.
No, he will be. And
everyone says that to him. Garibaldi, comes into this plot at one point and says, look, I heard you will leave, because Jakar makes the choice because he sees the other Narn fighting about this, and they're basically ready to fight this Nafar to the death. Like, they're like, no, we're not letting you take Jakar. We believe in him, which is kind of a little heartwarming that they're willing to stand up for him. But but when Jakar sees this, he's like, "What? You're at each other's throats. This is what they want. No, that like I'm not going to have this be the result of me. I'm going home." And Garibaldi comes to talk to him, and it's kind of sweet because they had that interaction from before when he gave him some advice, and here we are again where he's like, "No, I think it'd be better if you stayed. Like, don't go. They're going to kill you." I love that Jakar's building these friendships with people that are kind of weird. They're kind of different to like normal friendships, but they're there and they're real.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, when he tries to leave, it's actually the bodyguard Narn. So the main Narn is Nafar, but the bodyguard, who I think is Talon, he's the Narn that was on the ship when Sheridan was kidnapped in season 2, and they survived together, and Sheridan effectively saved his life. And I didn't realize this until the scene because he's just quiet.
I thought it was the guy that was in the cruiser, the captain of the cruiser. I'm sorry, never mind. Because the cruiser that was hidden by the planet and from the other Centauri, I thought he was that captain.
Oh, back from episode 1
of this season.
Yeah, this season. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. I'm just checking his IMDb.
Was it episode 1? Okay. Never mind.
I'll check the actor's IMDb and just double check this. But I think I was correct. Infection. That sounds right. This is the one where Sheridan had the dreams, I think.
Okay. All right. You're right then. I did not.
Oh, wait.
I was thinking it was the captain of that cruiser.
Hold on. The first episode this actor was in, he was playing a different character, so that was really confusing for a second. That was like a season 1 episode. Like early season 1 episode. No. Alright, so the first episode this character was in was All Alone in the Night, which was season 2, episode 11. Sheridan's kidnapped. It's that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
I was just double checking. Just
it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was that one, and then I still thought it was that one, but just in case you were right, I wanted to double check it. But yeah, so yeah, that was the one with the dodgy walls on the ship, if you remember right.
Right, I
the
remember.
Fabric.
Remember well. And the Halloween costume alien walking around.
What I liked about this is that right away this guy had presence though, because he had like a. I mean, it was like a katana for a start, but I mean, obviously it's this specific type of blade that they brought up before, because Jakar names it again. But he comes up to Sheridan and in the bar, and they sort of like I'm like, oh, it's this guy, and it's like oh, so and it sort of talks about how he went back home and then the war happened, because he said that he wanted to come and thank Sheridan personally for helping him escape and survive, and he's like, but then the war started and everything that's obviously went on, so he's not had a chance. And they have this kind of moment here where he's like, I owe you for saving my life. And Sheridan sort of chuckles and says, well, I don't know what people would think if I shot with an armed bodyguard. And he goes, well, they'll say that he'll live to be 150 because he's that good of a bodyguard. And I thought that was kind of a funny little moment.
Yeah, it was cute.
I love that they've got this friendship.
They have good chemistry.
I like that we're getting like some other Narn now that I'm starting to like remember that are, and not to spoil anything, but I was looking at his IMDb there, he's in at least another handful of episodes, so we're going to see him again in some capacity.
The Narn, the not so good one,
Nafar.
We've seen him before. He was in Trancers 4.
Oh no. Who was he in Trancers 4?
He was like the main guy that was Jack Death's opponent for that movie.
Oh,
he was in the 5th one. Yeah, he was the villain.
I'd love to say I recognize him, but I really don't.
He was kind of like a Merlin character.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
Maybe a little bit of Highlander.
There's not as many recognizable guest stars so far this season, because the first half of season 2 was full of them. It was like insane how many guest stars we were recognizing.
But we don't often get a Trancers guest star. We have in the past, though.
Well, we had Jeff. Well, but Jeffrey Combs wasn't in Trancers, was he?
Who?
I was going to say Jeffrey Combs, but he never actually popped up in any of those. Now I think about it.
No, Jeffrey Combs wasn't. I thought we had one of the females. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Maybe we did. I don't know. There's been a lot of episodes, a lot of guest stars at this point. I don't know.
One of Jack Death's women.
One of Jack Death's many women.
What a man.
But no, I like this friendship. I love the idea that we're going to see this character again, and it just like I was expecting that character to come back, and the idea that he's got Sheridan's got some camaraderie with someone. It's just nice. It's just nice. But anyway, the ending of this is that he suggested there's like a sort of tease in a scene where he's like, no, maybe there's another way to like resolve this. And when Jakar's going to leave, all of the Narn in the station basically block his way and say, no, we're not letting you go. And he's like, but your families, and they're like, no, like, this is resisting this. Part of this is like suffering. Part of this has been in this fight, and our families know that too. And if you go back, you're just going to die, and we won't have someone we believe in anymore. So no, we're not letting you go. And it's kind of them being like, no, you're not going through us. And it's kind of heartwarming because it's like, no, they're doing it to save him because they believe he is. I say this almost every episode. I've been saying it every episode for the last like 10 episodes now at this point. But the turnaround in Jakar and how much they've made me love him and how much they're making me root for him is insane. It's insane.
Yeah. I rewatched The Gathering a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week. And I understand why you say that, because rewatching it, like, Jakar is such an asshole. He's
a villain, yeah. He's played as the villain at the start.
It's really easy to dislike him. And then there's Londo, who's just gambling and drinking and partying with everybody and getting along. And then in comes Jakar, and he's upset about, all the restrictions or whatever. He's trying to smuggle weapons, and it's like, yeah, of course you're going to be on more Team Londo versus Jakar.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think about both those characters. Jakar is the way he is because his race, his people were the victims in this past, occupation.
Oh yeah, these past 2 seasons have been like, oh well, that's why he was an asshole. Yeah, but he's kind of justified because the Satari did exactly what he was saying they would do.
Yeah, he was it looked paranoid to an extent, but he was actually justified the entire time because they did do it. Right? Whereas Londo, he was just kind of sad and miserable and just kind of wanted to have control again. And then, of course, he was offered it on a silver platter and took it. And that's the sad tragedy of the character. But it's just, it's just interesting to think about, like, why one felt more villainous to begin with, but ultimately, once we actually examine them a bit more, once we have the context of both characters. That's not to say that Jakar didn't try to do a couple of shady things that were definitely villainous, because he did. There was definitely a couple of plots where he was definitely the villain early on in the show, but the turnaround is fantastic. It's amazing. This is like long-term serialized storytelling at its best. This is what I love about long-form stories, is this sort of turnaround.
I love this scene too, because it's very so much of this episode is accusing people of being too proud. And even Jakar has been accused of his, like, just doing things for pride. Like, you want to like go after the Centauri because you want to be the hero again because you've been knocked down. He's like literally just accused of that by the end. And he goes,
I was going to say, it's important. You said
he's going to sacrifice himself here, basically. Like, clearly he's not doing it for pride. He's doing it because of his country or his planet. That's
a great point. You're right. He kind of proves that it's not about pride by his choice at the end, and it's the others that stop him. So you're right. That's a good point. That's kind of the end of the story, is that he proves that he wasn't doing it for pride. But I think it's important because you said that we hear pride multiple times in this episode. It's twice, and it's notably with Jakar and with Londo, which is what I was trying to get to there. Because I think that's important because, again, the dichotomy of those two characters, because there's so many things you can parallel. There's so many things because they are both prideful and they are both like have these strong opinions of the other and so on. But there's also a lot of contextual differences. And I think, like you say, Jakar proving that he's not doing this for pride, and Londo actively trying to stamp out the pride earlier in the episode, again, is this mirror between them that is like showing you their true colours. And it's disheartening and heartwarming on either side, depending on which side you're on. So it's
honestly, I think all the side plots, if you want to call them that, are like really strong in this episode. It's just the main plot that's not, but I still think, like, because of it, it's a really great episode.
But that's why I say I'm hesitant to call it the main plot, because it's not really. If anything, screen time wise, is equal to at least 2 of the other plots. So
yeah, there's a lot going on here.
I think saying there's an A plot in this is maybe kind of, I don't know, redundant.
Maybe.
But there's like 3 other plots, and all of them are pretty good to great, and they all continue the character arcs. They all touch on, the fact that we're still doing these great comparisons between Londo and Jakar, and the idea that no matter where we are in the story, we can examine those 2 characters and how they're treating the situation to further drive home who they are and how it's driving the story forward, is really good storytelling.
Much better than the last one.
I didn't have as many problems with the last one, but yes, you weren't as hot on it.
I like it.
But that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, that I mean, that's pretty much everything. If we missed anything, I got caught up trying to prove my innocence in the caffeine addiction.
It's okay. I mean, everyone's addicted to caffeine. Just don't don't. What's the saying? Don't throw stones in the glass house or whatever. Like you're. Don't try to,
It was a throwing
try to be
stones
more sympathetic to people who have addictions, because everybody is addicted to something.
Who was I not being sympathetic towards?
Not you. I mean, I just mean in general. Like, people are so quick to persecute because somebody went down the wrong path and got addicted to a thing. Like dude, you're all addicted to drugs. It's alcohol, caffeine, processed food. Like, we're all addicted to drugs.
Yes. There's definitely some weird exotic drugs that I do question, though. Like, how you don't just fall into trying...
Like licking a toad or something.
like you had to choose to try something like that. It's not just something normal you're supposed to give a try. So...
Sure.
I can be a little judgmental with certain addictions, but yeah, I'm not going to be judgmental over caffeine or food. I've never actually drank alcohol, so I mean, I can be a little judgmental about that if I want to.
Okay, well, you just missed my point then.
I get to be on the high horse with that one. Thank you very much.
All right, well, pretty great episode, I thought, with the exception of the one plot that was just whatever.
And I'm joking, before anyone comments, I'm joking, okay? I mean, I haven't actually ever drank alcohol. That part is true, but I'm joking about the high horse. All right, that's been this week's Babylon 5 discussion. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know, of course, what you think of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all the usual things. Ding the bell for notifications. It's very helpful on YouTube. It's the way YouTube channels grow. So please hit those buttons for the engagement. It is really important. I feel like a shill saying it, but please do. Tara, why don't you tell them all about Patreon? Yeah,
if you enjoy our reviews and our odd tangents now and then, just check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalafuzzTV. And if you donate as little as $1 per month, you'll get access to bonus episodes for other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to Babylon 5 1 week early. So you get to see what we think of episode 4 of season 3 if you want to after this. Thank you.
Yes, 4 comes after 3. That's correct. I can confirm.
You can check it out now when you're done with this video.
That's true. If you're watching it when it's public. If you're watching this on Patreon, you need to wait.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all of them would just be there on Patreon, like just waiting and just to casually come off for the public. Anyway, that has been Babylon 5. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Get us on the Twitters, of course, as well, at mailed_fuzz for channel updates and so on. And check out Mail Fuzz Movies, the movie YouTube channel we have, which includes our science fiction movie podcast, The Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is myself and Tara talking about sci-fi movies. So if you like this, maybe that would appeal to you as well. So go and have a look. But otherwise, that's it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.